Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Heartland Mamas. I'm Murray Briel.
And I'm Heidi Henry coming to you from two socially distant studios at the edge of the Great Red Divide. You can catch all of our previous episodes at heartlandmamas.com, on all podcast platforms, on YouTube, and of course carried on the Demcast USA network, coming to you live stream twice a week at 2 p.m., bringing the message of democracy, progressivism, and reality across the big Great Red Divide. And Murray, it's been a heck of a
Okay, we
last
need.
couple days.
Oh, yeah. So, for those of you who might be new listeners, every once in a while we do TWIT, This Week in Trump. It's a 20 to 30-minute recap of the batshit banana pants crazy things coming out of Pennsylvania Avenue. And the last 2 days has felt like an entire week.
It
So, we
has.
said it's time to let's twit it up, babies.
Yep.
And hence we are here. So, real quick wrap up or where we are. We have a president who had COVID 19, who we
Probably
don't
still has
know
it.
actually is clear of it, who lies about every aspect of it. He could have been very sick, he could have been barely sick and just a big baby. None of us know. But what we do know is medically and scientifically, there is still a very strong possibility that he is a carrier and a spreader of the disease. The timeline for shedding the disease continues based on the amount of viral load.
That's
And
right.
we don't have an accurate account because of his secrecy and
Desire to have
banana
fake doctors.
crazy pantsness. Yeah, VIP treatment, right? We
Yeah.
don't really know what's going on, but we do know that medically and scientifically he should and could still very well be spreading, and
Yes.
that the antibody therapy that he got will give a false response to that. So the irresponsibility on his super spreader tour is ridiculous.
Right. And, can we talk about that cocktail he had made from the kidneys of aborted fetuses 20 years ago? Mr. Right to Life. Mr. Pro Birther that's paid for 19 abortions that we know of. The
It's
hypocrisy.
really hard to justify how people are okay with the use of embryonic stem cells, but they're not okay with how you get an embryonic stem cell. I know that there are cord donations, but really, come on, guys.
No, that was the science where they harvested the stem cells was from an aborted fetus kidney 20 years ago that went into the cocktail that he had. And of course, if anybody's going to cannibalize anybody, it's going to be Trump. So
Well, you're absolutely right. So something else I want to point out here is we talked about the super spreader event in the Rose Garden. We don't know for sure that's where it came from, but almost everyone is convinced that that's
and
where it
Murray,
came
why
from.
he's so quiet about Amy Comey Barrett? Because I think that he thinks she gave it to him.
That actually makes a lot of sense.
Yes.
I am very surprised that there has not been more engagement from Pennsylvania Avenue on the Coney Barrett hearings.
Nope. Nothing.
Something about that just doesn't seem
No.
seems very
He's
unlike
not.
him. If you go
He's not
back to
talking.
Gorsuch and you go back to Kavanaugh,
Yeah.
um, he had a very different
Right.
approach to the nomination. So Heidi, I don't know if I think that's a pretty good theory actually that
He blames her
perhaps.
or something that happened at that event. I'm sure of it. Number one, he's empowering a woman, which is really difficult for him. I'm sure his misogyny struggles with this. The fact that he had to
Oh, you mean
appoint a
like
woman.
Housewives? Sorry.
Oh my God, housewives. Murray, let's talk about these super spreader events because you and I attended one of those events before COVID-19 a little over a year ago, and we
Yes, we
saw all
did.
the batshit banana pants crap coming from his mouth. And you had a little struggle with agoraphobia, so I was right up there moving through the crowd within 10 feet of that orange, orange Caligula. I stopped myself, Marie. I stopped myself.
The girl.
Um,
The girl.
and of course, at that point in time, I was so focused on the racism rants that he was on and the call to arms and the calls to exterminate those that didn't belong in our country that I missed a lot of
Send
it.
me
And
a
I tell
text
you
on the
that I go back and
media.
review my notes from that day and my pictures and recordings, and I pick up more stuff because now it all makes sense. At the time, I really felt like a president should be an honorable human being and not saying what I knew he was saying, but it wasn't digesting in my head. Now I look at those notes and I see it with a whole new set of eyes, and I'm like, holy crap, he really was calling for people to take up arms and shoot immigrants, to shoot not white people. And you and I both heard it that day. I was 10 feet from him when he called for the extermination of people that didn't belong in our country, and it didn't sink in. But now yesterday he was in Des Moines, Iowa. And you know, you and I've spent a lot of time in Iowa last year pre-COVID and even this year pre-COVID.
Beginning of this year, yeah.
It seems like it was so long ago, but it was just February, you know? And we love Iowa. We love, love, love Iowa. So, but Iowa has two crazy politicians. And one of them is Kim Reynolds.
Two. Whoa.
Well,
they have way more than two. They've got
well, okay.
Angus King. They've got Joni Ernst.
Well, Joni Ernst is the one. Remember the commercial with Joni Ernst where she was shooting at Obamacare with a gun? Bang, 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 bang. Now Joni Ernst is about to get her wish a few days after the election to shoot down Obamacare. And the people of Iowa that are struggling with red COVID zones are really going to hate her after they kick her to the curb and elect Teresa Greenfield. But Kim Reynolds yesterday at the Trump super spreader event, dancing around maskless, no mask, on the stage, with a man that was spewing crap that sounded like Adolf Hitler. Did you see that?
I'm sorry, but that doesn't even faze me. I mean, it should. The fact that he complained to Iowa about his Nobel Peace Prizes, 3, which he hasn't won once and was only nominated for 2. How the Iowa floods, we all know there were floods. I mean, it was my Nobel. These people who were devastated.
Yeah.
He then proceeds to say, he makes some egregious statement before or after, but you know me, I always glap on to the smaller injury. And that was him saying, I may never have to come back here again if I don't win.
Yay.
You know, like it's such a nasty, horrible thing for him to have to do.
Right. Well, he would never set foot in Iowa willingly.
Well, the piece de resistance for me was when he called her honey.
Oh my God.
He called a governor, a woman governor, honey.
Honey.
Come up here, honey.
Honey.
Between that and our suburban housewives, which I have to say, this week in Trump got real freaking crazy.
Yeah.
Because 2 days ago, he stopped using housewife. In fact, he made a big deal about how he can't say housewife. It has to be suburban woman.
Marie, since Ronald Reagan, nobody can afford to have a housewife.
Yeah, like
we're all two-income families now.
Housewife.
We're all two-income
and what makes me even madder is that is what he has deemed is what every woman should want to be. You know, in his mind, every woman just craves to have her bustier on and her little apron and be handing martinis to her husband when he comes in the door.
Oh, yeah,
when he says that, that's all that's my kitten heels. That conjures up that image, and it's so incredibly frustrating.
I did warn Stanley, my long-suffering husband of nearly 40 years, that I wasn't very domestic when he asked me to marry him. I can't really cook all that well. I cook a few things well, but not very much. My barn is clean. My house could be dusty. You know, I just not super domestic. Not a decorator. Not a, just not. And he was okay with that because his mom was a good decorator and an excellent cook, and he was okay going a different way, I guess. So, but I also wanted to talk about one of the really egregious things that he's been saying at his rallies, and it hurts because it hurts our Navy SEALs. He has made claim that when the Navy SEALs killed Osama bin Laden, that they killed a body double so that Obama could hide Osama bin Laden. That is gut-wrenching for the men and women that put
Well,
themselves, their lives on the line to do that. And to
and
call
yeah,
into
but
question
I
their
mean,
integrity is despicable.
but he does all the time. He is constantly
Yeah.
penalizing and demeaning our men and women in the armed forces.
Well,
Is
he
just his shtick.
one of
But
his
he lags.
one of his
He
claims is that the Gold Star families gave him COVID-19. The Gold Star families, they're ones who've lost a child in war. And he's blaming them. And yet he stopped going after them, but he doesn't say anything about the super spreader event in the Rose Garden. So I'm wondering if he knows that that's not really true and where he really got it from.
all I know is that as we wrap this up, I find no delight in anyone getting ill
No.
from COVID-19 because karma doesn't really seem to be taking out the true assholes. And I'm going to say that like live because they really should be doing more to those horrible human
No.
beings. But there is little
Marie.
moments of
Yeah.
light and delight
Yeah.
in our world, and that would come from the bar owner in Wisconsin who held a private party for Trump Jr.
Yes.
For Junior
For Junior.
and for Junior, and he had a private party for him when they were there on the Super Spreader tour right after the Rose Garden, and he got COVID. The bar owner is in ICU
Yep.
with COVID, and he
Yes.
said he wants to punch Trump in the face.
Yeah.
I gotta say, I would feel the same. He is angry. And I mean, first I say, why were you having a party for him in the first place in your
Right.
establishment? But maybe he learned. Who knows?
Well, in Murray, not my state representative, but one near me, who I often refer to as somebody's poodle, because he is always advocating for a deadly disease, a deadly virus. He wants to rip Illinois wide open and let everybody just do whatever they want, no masks. Announced on his page today he's got COVID-19. And I have to say,
so
I was
sad.
drinking my morning tea and I had to clean my monitor because it was that funny. But which is so unlike me, Marie, to delight in somebody being sick. But,
I gotta say, I think that is okay.
Yeah.
I mean, when you have things like the Trump army, which we need to hit on very briefly here,
Yeah.
it is, he is, according to the campaign, training 50,000 people to be poll watchers, and election officials are fearing intimidation. We've already seen him saying, good, put the Republican drop boxes up, which are illegal
In California.
and how dare they take them away. Between insurrection and treason and stealing an election, he has this army of folks who are just blind followers, his cult.
Right.
And I've noticed that those that are true devotees are getting more and more aggressive. And we talked a little bit about this, and they're just bullies because he's a bully.
Yes.
But they're looking for a fight. They are looking to engage. Whether it is somebody driving with two big Trump flags, and if you look at their vehicle, they give you I'm going to kick your ass. Or
come at me, bro.
Whether it's someone wearing a Trump mask in a store with her hands going, bring it. But does what I look like scream Democrat? I don't know. I don't wear red, so maybe.
Marie, you and I talked a little bit about this on pre-show about how they're getting worked up. And I equated it to flies in my barn right now because the flies know that tonight there's going to be a heavy frost and they're going to die. So they're very aggressive today. They're super aggressive. And you can't look at the numbers of early voters, which is 80.5 million early voters, which is more than what we had in 2016.
That's amazing.
Yeah, that is an amazing amount. And not know that these are people who are planning to vote Democrat. I early voted yesterday. I got my sticker in my deep state sweatshirt because, that's how I roll. And I have to tell you, there's a lot of older people down there. And out in the parking lot as we're coming out, they're talking about how they can't wait to get rid of them. Now, I live in a rural community. I know 3 of them have farms, and they couldn't wait to get in there and vote early and vote against Trump. I think they would have literally voted for my dog Tippy, my little dog Tippy, rather than vote for Trump. And she's a nasty barker, and she's not really housebroken. So, but the other thing I discovered after I early voted yesterday, I wasn't sure when my vote was going to be counted. And I found out that in Illinois, when you early vote, the day it's received, either in the little hopper at the courthouse, and use the hopper at the courthouse, please, or turned in early in the basement of your courthouse or wherever your early voting site is, that it's counted that day. It's counted that day. In fact, every state in the union either counts them the day it's received, the day before the election, or the day of the election. So these votes are all counted and tabulated before we go into the returns on election day. And I want people to understand.
I believe Will County does it the day of. They will update Vote Builder, letting you know that people have voted, that they've received, but there isn't any count until that day, the morning of, I think.
Well, I don't know that they don't release the counts, of course. They can't do that because it's prior to the election. But they can have it in the computer already,
That's so cool.
Yeah. So, and that is an Illinois state statute. So it's, once it goes in the little, they get it in from the little hopper and they feed it into the machine, it's tabulated. So you don't have to worry about that. But yeah, when we get Vote Builder here in Illinois, we can look at that. The Democrats have Vote Builder. We can tell who's voted. And I know I pulled, because I wanted to send postcards to my precinct. I'm a appointed precinct committee person, and I was sending postcards out. I couldn't believe the amount of people in my precinct that had voted already. All of my Democrats, almost all of my hardcore Democrats have voted already. Or gotten a mail ballot. So I'm so excited for them and excited that some of the work I've done in my precinct leading up to this is paying off dividends, I think, now. But we have to understand that voting by mail is safe. I realize not in every state. Illinois is one of those exceptionally progressive states where we really go out of our way to help people vote. Other states are not as good. Pennsylvania is really struggling right now with its policies and politics. Texas, even though they have early voting, is struggling. Indiana. A lot of them are, especially the ones that are red-run states, are really struggling with keeping the vote clean and clear. Having unfettered access. Texas is really struggling with that and had an infamous Supreme Court ruling that they have to provide so many ballot drop-offs, so many election sites per population, not just one per county. So there's a lot of good things going out that are coming of this, and I think it's setting us up for a better Voting Rights Act that I think is in our near future. In this next 4 years, I think we'll have a Voting Rights Act that'll be even better than the one that Trump got rid of.
But you said something, Heidi, that just really ties into our next point, the Voting Rights Act. Mm-hmm. And there is legislation that is being challenged in the courts right now about restricting voter access, about gerrymandering. And we have a Supreme Court nominee who has no problem attacking the right to vote by someone who has committed a felony, but is more than happy to allow someone who has committed a felony to have a firearm, an AK-47.
Right.
It's situational, mind you. She is the same person who is happy to say that racial discrimination still exists in the country.
And she's okay with it.
And that she's happy. Yeah, definitely. And that you are, and isn't real familiar with the First Amendment. But keep in mind, she's a constitutional scholar.
She's
in the question.
Okay, I'm going to tell you exactly what my mother used to say. Somebody has to graduate at the bottom of their class. They still pass. You can be a constitutional scholar and graduate at the bottom of your class. I'm just saying. Not everybody is Barack Obama, right? Not everybody.
She's very intelligent. I wouldn't criticize her intelligence, like we were talking when we were on Ben's show.
The 5 guarantees, the 5 freedoms guaranteed us in the First Amendment. If you're a
she should probably not have picked that.
If I know those, And I'm a horse trainer. How can she be a constitutional scholar and not know those?
So I can even giving her a little bit of slack. It was the end of 3 days of questioning. They were long days. She was
Blah,
getting
blah, blah, blah,
tired.
blah.
But I'm sorry. I would think that when you're going to law school, now any of our lawyer fans, please feel free to let me know. It kind of seems like pre-law, law 101, high school civics, Constitution, and what each amendment says. And someone who's supposed to be a legal scholar and teaching this subject matter, when asked, no matter how freaking tired you are, you should be able to say verbatim what all of those amendments are. Now, when they asked her, of course, she got the
Religion.
first part, religion. She
only wants the freedom of certain Christian religions. Don't ask her about being a Muslim, or being a Hindu or being a Baha'i. She wants the freedom of religion, but only her version of Roman Catholicism, which is an extreme view. But she thinks it's the correct one. She thinks it's the correct one.
It is an extreme view, and then that brings us to the Senate process. Now, I'm really big on judicial appointments, on judicial confirmations, on how we work our system, and that's something that I'm a history nut about. But I had to sit there, and thank goodness for my friend Irene Mills. She helped me find a word called Backpfeifengeist.
Is that
It is
Klingon?
the German word.
Oh, it's German.
No, it's German. It is the German word that literally means someone with a punchable face. Listening to the Republican senators in the Judiciary Committee, I was so glad to then have that word for today while watching, because there's a lot. It's a noun. I love it. It's just the perfect description.
It's the perfect word. And, watching.
It really is.
Watching.
But this is what I want to point out, the hypocrisy, right? So that the Republicans are notorious for having 3 talking points. Most parties do. They send out what they want you to hit for your points, what you want, the messaging that they want you to stay on. And the Republicans are notorious for this. So they will get the message, and then everybody repeats the message from every megaphone that they can find. And the message that apparently they're all being told is that the judicial branch, just because you don't like the way the legislation went, doesn't mean you can go to the judicial branch to change it. This is the argument that they make over and over again.
Wait a minute. So that's, you can't petition the government for a redress of your grievances, which is in the First Amendment. So,
well, so here's the thing: is all of these cases that are in the courts, the continuation of attacks that Janice has led to, reproductive health rights, LGBTQ rights. Every single one of these challenges, not every single one, let me take that back.
Okay.
A majority of these challenges are brought forth from Democratic legislation that passed by Carmely, that passed by partisanship-wise, yet special interest Republican groups are the ones who are controlling and causing these court cases to occur.
Right.
So you have every freaking Republican senator saying, well, just because you don't like the way that the law was written, you should have done a better job writing the law. You're the ones that don't like the way the law was written. Why are you trying to say the Democrats are? It's like...
They're projecting, Murray. They project everything. They project what they are doing on others to try to make other people look bad when they can't own their own shit. Just saying.
Well, we are about time to wrap up our twit.
And we don't get to talk about Lindsay begging for money, Graham.
No, we'll talk about him on Tuesday because I'm
Okay.
sure he'll be begging for money again. So thank you so much, folks, for tuning in to our show today. Please like us, share us, tell all your friends about us. Tuesdays and Thursdays, live. We are also on YouTube, Spotify, any place you get your favorite podcasts.
Yeah.
Reach out, tell your friends, like, share love.
And
Heartland Mamas. Oh, go ahead.
mamas.com, and catch our Tuesday episode on the Ben Jarofsky Show. That's where we were last Tuesday. Everybody keeps saying, "Where were you Tuesday?" We were on Ben's show. So I hope you'll tune that one in because it was a good one. Take care, everybody. Thanks for tuning in.
Thank you, guys. Stay
Bu-
sane.
yes. Bye bye.